Hey, I'm Ed Doyle, president of RealFood Hospitality Strategy and Design, and I'm taking time today to sit down with some of the thought leaders across the spectrum of the hospitality industry to understand where we go from here today. Now, here is a weird place. I'm talking to them all remotely. It's no substitute for being in the same room, but it's no substitute for being in a restaurant together. So we're going to see what comes out of today as we look to the future to redefine our hospitality industry and understand how we can support our clients and, frankly, how we can support each other as we try to get through these challenging times.
So I'm Zach Smith. I'm an associate over at Bergmeyer Associates. I do a hell of a lot of restaurant design, and I'm excited for the reemergence of the restaurant industry.
Zach Smith from Bergmeyer Architecture. Thanks for sitting down with me, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
These are certainly crazy times, and the passion that we have for design, I know you guys share, and I think the big difference that what we do is so much of the design work that we do is based around delivering a hospitality experience, which has been absolutely, let's call it, interrupted in this time, right? So I know we're all sitting around talking about what's changing, what's going to happen, and try to understand that. But I think the real fall down of this will be if we go through this traumatic time and we don't get to the other side of this smarter, right? So as you think about this, as we get to the other side of this, whatever this is, what will we have learned about the hospitality experience and how it impacts what we do in the design world?
I think the thing that I'm going to take away is how much I miss the hospitality industry. Like how awesome all these people were. You literally talk to anybody, first thing they say is, I miss the bar, I miss the restaurant, I miss going on this business trip with my friend. Not because of my friend, but to be out of the house, be in this kind of community space. It's indispensable. And I think everybody will admit to that. And that's kind of what I'm excited about and a little bit worried about at the same time is when this reemerges, how do we control this reemergence in a smart way? Because everybody's going to want to be at the bar. Everybody's going to want to be at the restaurant. Everybody's going to want to be in these awesome community spaces around these people that love what they do. Instantly. I think we're going to see a frightening ramp, which will be a good thing. And I think us as designers, talking about you and I, how can we capture that excitement in a safe way where we take the table stakes and everything that we've learned about these wonderful adaptable people and put it into a safe experience, because that's where people are going to want to go.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, and it's great to hear you say, I miss the hospitality people, like the land of the misfit toys, as I call it. We get so much energy when we sit around the table with a client and they talk about their vision and their dream and what they want to accomplish. And then we try to translate that onto a plan. I miss that collaboration. So we will get back there. I know it. And I think the difference is going to be delivering those differentiated experiences that the consumer is going to be looking for. So, how do you think those hospitality experiences are going to be able to be as engaging in the post-COVID world that we're going to be living in? And understood, it's still being defined. Is it 25%? Is it 50%? What are the elements that we need to worry about? But, what do you see?
So I think it's a ramp, and I do a lot of retail work along with hospitality work and restaurant work specifically. And what we've seen the shift in retail over the last, 10 years and the emergence of online retail and everything to this, what we call like showrooming experience. And so these much more hands-on, these much smaller, we're not looking at big box stores anymore. We're looking at these smaller footprint things that we see throughout the city of Boston. I think we start to see that. I think that's pretty exciting. I think about chef table experiences, which are always in the back corners of rooms. Are we looking at these chef table experiences now? Are we looking at these, I'm not going to say community table because that has the wrong vision in people's heads, but are we looking at these tables where the chefs are at your table or your waiter is now that fine dining experience where he's really walking you through everything you do? And that kind of premium experience, which I think is a double-edged sword, but I think is an interesting aspect to look at. These smaller format restaurants that are really about being one-on-one with your food. That farm-to-table concept dovetails perfectly into that. A lot of these fusion things where we're really back to ingredients, you really want to engage in that. And I think us as restaurant designers and hospitality designers, we're going that way. As we're competing with the Instacarts of the world and stuff, we really learned that people aren't just coming to restaurants for food anymore. They're coming to restaurants for experience because they can be at home, comfortable, get any food they want almost. And so it's really about driving the customers to that experience. And so I think it's just like taking that from where we were about 5, making it 10. Really creating these one-off experiences that are going to be slightly different every time you come back. Chefs, we've learned even more now, are super adaptable people. Their menus change from week to week, and they're listening to what's happening in their farms and their crops and those kind of things. So these kind of daily iterative experiences are just out there and kind of prime for the taking. And then how do we design a space around that can still hit your 100-person cover in kind of a smart way?
One of the things that I've been talking about is that once I leave that safe space of home, there's additional pressure to make that risk worthwhile, right? So that experience, as you talked about, how do you make sure that we're delivering that in a really unique way? And I think the thing that's interesting is to see the restaurants, as you said, adaptable as they are, step up to be able to deliver a hospitality experience in a curbside delivery, in a takeout, in a brown bag that you're eating at home. So, and we all want those hospitality experiences. So I'm sure you've been changing how you consume food and beverage over the last almost 10 weeks here, which is crazy. How do you see that, hospitality getting redefined, as a consumer and as someone that does so much for the hospitality world?
And my heart of hearts, I don't think it's going to change. I don't think we're going to have the 9/11 airport switch, for example, where everything went from like on to off.
We're not taking our shoes off when we walk into the restaurants?
I hope not. I think it's going to be that ramp, and it's going to be dealing with that ramp. And so we got this ramp. Who knows how long it's going to be? Let's say 6 months. And then it's about cleanliness in restaurants has always been a table stake. It will continue to be a table stake. I think transparency, I think we're going to see a lot more in that. And so again, those small experiences, we do a lot of show kitchens. Is the show kitchen kind of going to start to come back out and be in the forefront? So people are seeing the cleanliness and procedures and what's happening. And then having everybody from your hostess to your waitress or anybody kind of working in the space, kind of delivering that messaging. Just to make sure it resonates.
Do you see a big materials selection change happening here? Are we moving away from the reclaimed, distressed barn board that couldn't be cleaned if you wanted it to?
Probably. At least at the table space.
Those contact surfaces are going to need to be hyper.
Yeah. But we're doing people don't see it, but we're doing it behind the scenes. And so maybe some of that inverts a little bit. And so that seeing more of the kitchen, seeing more of the stainless, not so much as a design aesthetic, hopefully, but seeing more of it and seeing it being done, seeing people washing hands, people cleaning kind of. And so, right before it went down, I happened to go to New York State. And so 8 weeks ago, and just I felt more comfortable because people were kind of on the start of it and people were cleaning. I'm like, all right, it's being cleaned. I'm observing it's being cleaned.
Right.
As a professional, I know it's being cleaned, but the act of seeing it, so almost the theater around it.
We've been calling it the theater of sanitation. That's the new phrase that we're tossing around. It is true because there's two things, right? There's the fact that we know the hospitality business has always been focused on food safety, right? It's tantamount to what we do. It's taking care of people. But now you have to even go beyond that and make sure people see you doing what you're doing because you want them to be comfortable. The other piece of what we do in our work is we spend so much time figuring out what it's going to be like to work in this space and how to make it work. Now we need to figure out how to make it safe. And sometimes that's going to be readapting existing spaces, and that's going to be continuing in the new spaces that we build. I don't see myself designing a big buffet anytime soon. What are you and the team at Bergmeyer seeing relative to how we're re-envisioning what it means to be a worker in the hospitality space?
First of all, and this is kind of outside the hospitality world, but I think it's finally being talked about. kind of the last set of years, especially in New York City, you've been seeing unions go on strike and hospitality workers looking for those health benefits and looking for the fair wages and all that stuff. I think that's going to be taken more seriously now, finally. I think that's a huge industry shift. I think it took something like this to happen, and I hope to God that it does happen because it's about time. And so I hope that happens, and I hope they're protected going through this in a more reasonable way, and that the people kind of behind the scenes are helping support those people. I know it's a really hard challenge, but I think we're finally up to that challenge, and we need to meet that challenge. Restaurants running on thin margins, especially, it's hard. But I think it needs to be done just outside of design. People need to know if they're going to work just as much as the customer going to the space. They need to know that the people serving them and prepping them are invested in a meaningful way. And so those benefits kind of coming full circle finally, I think that will help. It's a challenge. I think it's transparency. And so how you see the theater that you just mentioned, that we just talked about, it's really about how these things are operated. I think that's going to come down to it. I think facilitating that and how we design things. And so we've already talked about show kitchens a little bit. We talked about a more one-on-one experience, which will help. I think people feel comforted when they're not in a sea of 100 people at that buffet scene, for example, but they're at that table of 6, even if they don't know those 6 people, but have somebody with them. They have their security guard for the near future, but then thinking about that shepherd, there's somebody shepherding them through that experience, I think is opportunity. It's going to come at a different price point. I think QSR and the emergence of QSR and fast casual, I think that's going to go takeout. I think the Kavas of the world, I think the Shake Shacks of the world, I think all those guys are going to shift their business models. I just read an article about Shake Shacks already doing it. They're adding takeout windows, and I don't think they've done a drive-thru yet, but saying they haven't done a drive-thru yet, they're looking at them finally, right, for better, for worse. They're looking at walk-up windows now, just like the curbside pickups. I think they're going to shift that way. I think they're just going to embrace it and they're just going to run with it. I think that's what we're going to see over the next 1 to 5 years. I think that will be a major shift. Then I think we're going to have the fine dining is going to get dialed up. I think that will emerge fairly quickly. The guys already getting the high plates and the high touch experiences, I think, will emerge quickly. It's what's that middle space? And that's the one I'm really interested in. How do you, these kind of mid-range guys were always about community around food. That's 10 weeks ago, that's what everybody was talking about, is building those. We saw it in our seating. We saw community tables. We saw tight tables. We saw interaction. We saw spaces built around bars. That's going to change, at least in the foreseeable future. And I hope I know there's flexible solutions that will deal with that. And I hope we get back close. And I think we will get back close to where we were 10 weeks ago, but we're going to have to deal through those couple of years and figure out how to help our clients, help our community to figure this out. And then having those solutions, again, be flexible. And so the restaurants that haven't been designed yet can get back up to that capacity. And that I have 2 or 3 restaurants in the works right now that are unfortunately on hold. Thankfully, they haven't committed any capital beyond our design fees yet. But now how do we look at that design and go, okay, we know at Christmas time when you were thinking to open, say you can't open again, that experience is going to be different than what we originally planned. Let's keep that original plan experience in our back pocket with a goal to get there in 2 years, as just a time frame. But how do we adapt that experience that meets those things? And so I'm going to use my chef table experience again. Can we make those kind of large banquet sections more into more intimate dining spaces, and then start to kind of split them up over time?
Yeah, I've been talking about what if the PDR became a really PDR, right? So it's like a poolside cabana at a casino pool, right? So you've got your table, you got a little room. I think booths are coming back. You know, I mean, we've all been living through the crazy adaptations that restaurants have made to do this third-party takeout. You know, you would never have gone to one of your fine dining clients and said, okay, so where are we doing takeout? They would have thrown you out the front door, right? We will never design another restaurant without takeout facilities, right? So, and think about the conversations around curbside pickup. Okay, where's my loading zone? And all of these things that were secondary and tertiary considerations are now going to be threshold decisions. It is all about, we keep using the word experience. How do we deliver that experience? How do we deliver a seamless experience at takeout? And when you're having a engaged hospitality experience that's happening beyond the four walls of the space. So, and how does design come into that, right? Do we now start going further into how we take the architectural elements and the interior design elements and convey that into the packaging, right? And you want to think about a world that we can all dig into, right? The packaging world is like the Stone Ages still, right? It's effectively that styrofoam clamshell that, how do we reinvent that to create those touch points, right? I said to someone earlier today, we spend so much time defining those unique touch points to intentionally insert them into a concept, right? Find a space to create that tactile moment. And now every single one of those has become a liability. I think the coolest thing, though, is people like yourselves, people like us, so many of the people we've talked to today have been spending a lot of time thinking about not only what does this mean, but where do the opportunities lie? And that's what I'm really excited about. So as you guys are sitting, kicking around ideas, do you see some transformative things, some new things sprouting up out of the forest floor after this forest fire? Some transformative event or thing that might not have seen the light of day? Andy was talking earlier about instead of doing barbecue brisket, he's going to do slow cooked burnt ends out of mushrooms. And I asked him, I said, would this have happened before? He said, no, this was something that the opportunity to have that was created in this space. So what do you got? You got the next great thing?
It's the experience, right?
Yeah.
I've seen more of chefs on the internet, and they're my clients, than I've seen in real life. So many of the chefs have reemerged out of their kitchens. They're there, they're on the front lines. They're the ones that are packing your food. They're the ones on social media. They're the ones talking to people. Chris taking up government advocacy with his Koji group and really getting out there, not just for his company, but for everybody. It's been really, really awesome. And I think some of the things that can come out of it are really inspiring. We went through, I don't know, we're a little bit past it now, but the show kitchen. And so people doing cooking classes together. Yep. I know Flower does a lot of them still. But does that come back? And so we talked about these intimate experiences. Is there, I think of a food hall concept almost. Is there these little chef counters and these little spaces? And instead of sitting at a table, you almost got the hibachi, right? But you're actually cooking, and you're cooking interesting things. And maybe you're not cooking it yourself, but maybe you are. Maybe these things start to reemerge and start to re-energize. And we saw the baking revolution coming out these last 10 weeks, and you can't buy yeast, you can't buy flour, you can't buy...
Who knew everybody could make sourdough?
People have re-engaged with cooking because they miss hospitality, they miss restaurants, they miss bars. And so how do we capitalize on people learning stuff and that desire to learn? And then that offsets you can't have 100 covers now, you can only have 50. And so I can design a space that can facilitate that. That's easy. It's getting the community excited about that. Won't be hard.
I think one thing that even sitting here, although I wish I was sitting in the same room with you, is the thing that comes through is that passion that you have for delivering experiences. So, I think as long as we don't lose that, as long as we don't lose our collective industry-wide connection to making things cool for our guests that make them want to maybe not just come into our restaurant, but click on our link or do this with us, I think we've adjusted and we've moved into the new normal. Zach, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me, man. Great conversation. I appreciate you taking a moment out of your busy day.
Absolutely. Thank you.